Ambassador had studied many species in his long career. He had met the peaceful who sang instead of speaking. He had traded with the Kell who had 4 arms and no concept of lying. He had even survived a dinner with the whose food was still alive when served. But nothing in his 200 years of diplomatic service had prepared him for humans. The Galactic Council had watched Earth for 50 years before making contact. They had seen humans split the atom. They had seen them walk on their moon. They had seen them build machines that could think. The Council had decided that humans were ready to join the galactic community. But first, they needed information. Was given a simple task. He had to fill out Form 7734B, the Standard Species Military Assessment. Every new species had to complete this form. It asked basic questions. How many soldiers? What kind of ships? And most importantly, how many weapons per individual? This last question was the most important. The Council needed to know how dangerous a species was. The peaceful carried no weapons at all. The warrior Kell carried exactly 3 blades each as their religion demanded. Every species had a number, just needed to find the human number. He chose to meet the humans at their space station. It floated above their blue planet like a silver wheel. The ship docked smoothly, and he walked through the airlock with his assistant, a young named who was taking notes on everything. Captain Park was waiting for them. He was a tall man with black hair that was turning at the sides. His uniform was neat and pressed, but his eyes looked tired, like he had seen too many things. Still, he smiled warmly and shook hand with a firm grip. "Welcome to Station Unity," said. "We are happy to have the first official ambassador from the Galactic Council." Made the formal greetings and presented the gifts his people always gave, accepted them with grace and gave human gifts in return. Small things. A bottle of something called whiskey, a book about human history, a plant in a pot. After the ceremony, explained his mission. "I must complete an assessment form for the Council. Most questions I can answer from observation, but one question I must ask directly." "Of course," said, "we want to cooperate fully." Looked at his tablet. How many weapons does a standard human soldier carry? Blinked. Then he laughed. It was a strange sound, and his translator struggled with it for a moment. The translator said it meant amusement, but also surprise, and maybe something else it could not identify. "That is not a simple question," said. Did not understand. For the Kell, the answer is 3. For the, it is 1, but it is a very large one. Every species has a number. "Humans are different," said slowly. He scratched his chin, thinking, "Do you mean official weapons, or everything we might use as a weapon?" "I do not understand the difference." Called over another officer. Lieutenant was shorter than her captain, with sharp eyes that seemed to notice everything. She listened to the question and raised one eyebrow. "Standard," she said, "or full combat gear?" "Let us start with standard," said. His stylus was ready to write. Touched her hip, sidearm, 1 pistol. She touched her thigh, combat knife. She lifted her foot slightly, boot knife. She pulled a pen from her pocket. "This looks like a writing tool, but it is reinforced titanium. It can punch through body armor." Wrote quickly, "So 4 weapons." "I am not finished," said. She touched the buttons on her jacket. "These are not just buttons, they are small throwing weapons, very sharp. There are 6 of them." She touched her collar. "There is a wire woven into this fabric. It can be used to choke someone." She removed a hair clip and twisted it. A small blade popped out. "This is standard issue for female officers. Very useful." Stopped writing. He counted in his head, 12 weapons on 1 person, and this was just standard. "This is more than expected," he said. Nodded slowly. "Lieutenant is not even our weapons specialist. She is a navigator." "A navigator carries 12 weapons." "Everyone carries weapons," said simply. "It is how we are." Who had been quiet until now, spoke up. "Ambassador, I think we need a larger form." Agreed, but something else was bothering him. Something had said earlier. He asked, "Captain, you mentioned official weapons and other weapons. What did you mean by other weapons?" And looked at each other. Something passed between them, some kind of silent communication that could not read. "Perhaps," said carefully, "we should schedule a full demonstration. I think you need to see this to understand it." "See what exactly?" Smiled, but it was not a happy smile. It was the smile of someone who knew a secret, a big secret. "Ambassador, your form asks how many weapons a human can carry, but I think the real question is different. The real question is, what counts as a weapon?" Felt a strange sensation. Later, he would learn that humans called it a chill down the spine. He did not have a spine, but he felt it anyway. "I do not understand," he said. "You will," said. "Tomorrow we will show you. And I promise you, Ambassador, you will never look at humans the same way again." That night could not sleep. He kept thinking about the navigator with 12 weapons hidden in her uniform. He kept thinking about the captain's strange smile. And he kept thinking about a simple question that was becoming very complicated. How many weapons could a human carry? He had a feeling he was not going to like the answer. The cargo bay was large enough to hold 3 shuttles. Today, it held something far more frightening. It held humans who wanted to show off. Stood behind a yellow line painted on the floor. Stood next to him, tablet ready, fingers shaking slightly. Captain had invited the entire senior staff to watch. About 30 humans stood around the edges of the bay, and they all looked excited. Did not know why. "We asked for volunteers," explained. "Sergeant is our weapons specialist. She will demonstrate a standard combat." Walked to the center of the bay. She was a small woman, smaller than most humans had seen. Her hair was pulled back tight, and her face showed no expression at all. She wore the same uniform as everyone else. Nothing special about it. "Please begin," said. Nodded. She reached under her jacket and pulled out 2 pistols. She placed them on a table that had been set up nearby. Then she removed her jacket completely and placed it aside. Under the jacket, she wore a vest. From the vest, she pulled 4 knives of different sizes, then 3 small round objects. "Grenades," explained quietly too. "They explode." Was not finished. She pulled a thin wire from her collar and placed it on the table. "Garrote," she said. It was the first word she had spoken. Then she removed her belt. The belt itself was a weapon with a sharp edge hidden in the buckle. Attached to the belt were more items. Another knife. A small tool that called a multi-tool. "The multi-tool has 17 functions," said. 11 of them can kill." Translator must have made an error. 11 ways to kill in one small tool. "It is very efficient," said. Pulled something else from the belt. It was a small device with a curved shape. "Compact crossbow," she said. "It folds down for storage. I call it lucky." Counted the items on the table. 19 weapons from one small woman, and she was still going. Sat down and removed her boots. From inside the left boot she pulled a flat blade. From the right boot she pulled a small gun, even smaller than the pistols. She removed her bootlaces and held them up. Reinforced wire can be used for cutting or strangling. She stood up and walked to the table in her socks. She removed her watch. "Explosive device," she said calmly. "Small blast but enough to kill one person." She removed her ring and held it up. Inside the ring was a tiny glass container. "Acid, very strong, melts through most metals." She touched her earrings. "Poison darts, coated with nerve toxin." She twisted her hair clip and a blade appeared just like Lieutenant had shown yesterday. "Standard issue." Tried to count. He lost track somewhere around 30. Was writing frantically, but his tablet was running out of space. "That is the official," said. She put her hands behind her back and stood straight, like a soldier giving a report. 34 weapons. 34 weapons on one person. Felt dizzy. The Kell carried 3, the carried 1. Humans carried 34. But then Specialist stepped forward. He was a large man with broad shoulders and a friendly smile that did not match the situation at all. "She is not counting improvised weapons," he said. "Did not know this word, improvised." Walked to a different table. This table had normal items on it: a coffee cup, a pen, a chair, a piece of cloth, a bottle of water. "Improvised weapons are not designed to be weapons," explained, "but they can become weapons when needed." He picked up the coffee cup. In one quick movement, he smashed it against the table edge. The cup shattered, but held onto one piece. The piece had a sharp edge like a knife. He moved it toward a training dummy that stood nearby and pressed the sharp edge against its throat. "Ceramic blade," he said. "Very effective, cannot be detected by most scanners." He dropped the broken cup and picked up the pen. It was just a normal pen. He held it in his fist with the point sticking out between his fingers. The pen can be used to stab eyes, throat, or other soft areas. He demonstrated on the dummy, moving fast, striking 3 times before could blink. The chair was next, picked it up and swung it in a wide arc. "Blunt weapon, can break bones. The legs can be removed and used as clubs or stakes." The piece of cloth became a strangling device. The water bottle became a club. Even the table itself, explained, could be flipped over and used as a shield or broken apart for weapons. Stepped back, his legs felt weak. "You are saying everything in this room is a weapon?" Smiled that friendly smile again. "Not everything, but most things. Humans learn to see the world this way. Everything is either a weapon, a shield, or useless. We decide which very quickly." Captain walked over to. "Are you all right, Ambassador? You look pale. Well, more pale than usual." Looked around the cargo bay. He saw the lights above. Weapons. He saw the cables on the walls. Weapons. He saw the humans standing around, watching, some of them smiling. "Definitely weapons." "I need to sit down," said. They brought him a chair. He looked at it for a long moment before sitting. He was sitting on a weapon. Everything was a weapon. "How do you count this?" asked. "If everything is a weapon, then the number is. "Infinite," said quietly. "The number is infinite." Looked at his tablet. Form 7734B asked for a simple number. It had space for 3 digits. The Council had never imagined a species would need more than 3 digits. He put the tablet away. He needed to think. He needed to understand. But mostly, he needed to stop imagining all the ways the humans around him could kill him with ordinary objects. He counted 37 items in the room that could become weapons. Then he stopped counting. It was too frightening to continue. The Galactic Council was not happy with his first report. They sent back a message saying he was not doing his job correctly. They said every species has a weapons count. They said he needed to try harder. They said he should create categories if the number was too large. Agreed to try. The humans offered to help. They seemed amused by the whole situation, which made nervous. When humans found something funny, it usually meant trouble for someone else. Dr. Han was assigned to assist him. She was which meant she studied alien cultures. Now she was helping an alien study human culture. She found this very funny too. They set up a workroom on the station, brought coffee and snacks, brought his tablets and forms, brought medicine for his stress, which had gotten worse since the cargo bay demonstration. "Let us start with categories," said. She wrote on a large screen that covered one wall. "First category, manufactured weapons. These are items designed to hurt or kill." This was familiar too. This was what the Council understood, like the pistols and knives from yesterday. Exactly. Guns, blades, explosives, all the military equipment. This category is large, but it has limits. We can count it if we try. Wrote the second category. Adapted weapons. These are tools that were made for other purposes but can be used to fight. Like the multi-tool. Yes, also hammers, axes, kitchen knives, farming equipment. Humans have been turning tools into weapons since the beginning. A shovel digs holes. It also cracks skulls. A fire poker moves burning wood. It also makes an excellent spear. Made a small sound of distress. He was taking notes, but his hands were shaking again. The third category was improvised weapons. Explained these were objects that became weapons only in the moment. The coffee cup from yesterday, the chair, the water bottle. Anything can become an improvised weapon if a human is creative enough, and humans are very creative. Looked at his coffee cup. He moved it slightly further away from his hand. But here is where it gets interesting, said. She wrote the fourth category, biological weapons. You mean diseases? Asked. He knew some species used diseases in war. It was horrible but not unknown. No, said. She smiled in a way that made uncomfortable. I mean the human body itself. She called in another expert. Master Sergeant Minu was the station's combat instructor. He taught humans how to fight without weapons, or rather, how to fight when their body was the weapon. Minu stood in front of them. He was an older man, maybe 50 Earth years, but he moved like water, smooth and quick. What do you want to know? Tell the ambassador about unarmed combat, said. Minu nodded. The human body has many weapons built into it. Fists, obviously. He held up his fist. It looked like a rock. A proper punch can break bones, collapse organs, kill if it hits the right spot. He opened his hand. Open palm strikes. These can burst eardrums, break noses, damage eyes. He bent his arm. Elbows, very hard, very dangerous, close-range weapons. He lifted his knee. Knees, for close fighting, can shatter ribs, damage organs, break jaws if you grab their head. He turned around and tapped his heel. Kicks. Humans practice for years to make their legs into weapons. Some martial artists can kick through wooden boards. He touched his forehead. Headbutts, the skull is very hard, the face is very soft. Humans learned this early. He opened his mouth and pointed at his teeth. Biting. Not elegant, but effective. Human jaw strength can bite through fingers. Some humans have bitten through leather and even thin metal. He held up his thumb. And this, the thumb, press it into the eye socket and the fight is over. I have seen this happen. Felt sick. The human body was a walking collection of weapons. They did not need pistols or knives. They were already armed just by existing. How many weapons is that? He asked weakly. Minu counted on his fingers. Fists, palms, fingers, thumbs, elbows, knees, feet, heels, head, teeth. That is 10 basic categories, but each category has many techniques. A trained fighter knows maybe 200 ways to hurt someone with just their body. 200 ways, and that was just one person. Was not finished. She added a fifth category, psychological weapons. Humans can fight with their minds, she said. We can intimidate. We can deceive. We can manipulate. Some humans can talk an enemy into surrendering without throwing a single punch. Some can spread lies that destroy armies. Some can break an enemy's spirit so completely that they give up forever. She told about a human general who won battles by making his enemy believe his army was larger than it really was. She told him about spies who convinced their targets to betray their own people. She told him about propaganda, about psychological warfare, about the human ability to get inside an enemy's mind. Set down his stylus. His tablet was full, his categories were full, and he still did not have a number. Your species, he said slowly, treats everything as a weapon. Minu and looked at each other. They seemed to consider the question seriously. Not everything, Minu said finally, but anything that could be a weapon. Yes, we have thought about it, we have practiced it, we have written books about it. We are survivors, added. Our planet tried to kill us for millions of years. We developed an instinct, always look for danger, always look for ways to defend, always ask, how can I use this to stay alive? Understood now. Humans did not carry weapons. Humans were weapons. Everything they touched became a weapon. Everything they thought about became a strategy. Their entire existence was built around the idea that the world was dangerous and they needed to be ready. He looked at his 5 categories: manufactured, adapted, improvised, biological, psychological. Each category contained infinite possibilities. The council wanted a number, was starting to realize that no number would ever be enough. Decided to study human history. Perhaps the past would explain the present. Perhaps he could understand why humans were like this if he knew where they came from. He regretted this decision within the first hour. Private Lee was assigned as his historical guide. She was young, barely 25 Earth years, but she had studied military history at something called a university. She loved her subject. Her eyes lit up when she talked about ancient battles. This made very nervous. They sat in the station's library, had prepared a presentation. The screen behind her showed images that would see in his nightmares for years. "Let us start at the beginning," said. "Humans first learned to make weapons about 2 million years ago. Simple tools, rocks with sharp edges, sticks with points, very basic but effective against the animals that wanted to eat us." She showed pictures of these early weapons. They did not look impressive, felt slightly better. "But we evolved quickly," continued. "We learned to use fire. Fire is interesting because it was the first thing humans weaponized that was not solid." Weaponized fire. Of course, fire keeps away predators. Fire hardens wood into better weapons. Fire cooks food, which gave us more energy to think of new weapons. And eventually, fire burns enemies. She smiled. Fire was our first weapon of mass destruction. The presentation continued. Humans had invented the bow and arrow, which killed from a distance. They invented the sword, which was just a very long knife. They invented armor, which was protection that made them harder to kill. And then they invented siege weapons. Watched images of massive wooden structures that threw giant rocks at walls. He saw towers that could be pushed toward enemy cities. He saw something called a battering ram, which was just a log that humans swung at doors until the doors broke. "This is very violent," whispered. He had stopped taking notes. His tablet sat forgotten on the table. "We are just getting started," said cheerfully. She explained gunpowder. The Chinese had invented it for fireworks for celebration. Humans immediately thought about how to use it for killing. Within a few centuries, guns and cannons had changed everything. Swords became useless. Castles became useless. The old ways of fighting died. "But gunpowder was just the beginning," said. "We discovered chemistry, and chemistry opened new doors." She told about poison gas. In a war called World War I, humans had created clouds of deadly chemicals that killed thousands in minutes. They had invented gas masks to protect themselves, then invented new gases that went through the masks. Back and forth, killing and protecting, an endless race. "You weaponized air," said. He felt cold. "We weaponized everything," replied. She was not boasting, she was just stating facts. She showed him biological weapons. Humans had learned to spread diseases on purpose. In ancient times, they threw diseased bodies over castle walls. In modern times, they grew deadly germs in laboratories. They could wipe out entire cities with invisible killers. "You weaponized disease." "Yes, we also weaponized water." She showed pictures of ancient Romans poisoning wells. She showed modern dams that could be opened to flood valleys and drown armies. She showed submarines that lurked under the ocean, unseen, carrying missiles that could end civilization. "Sound," she continued. "Drums that frightened enemies, horns that confused them, modern sonic weapons that can make people sick or even kill them with vibrations. Light, mirrors that blinded enemies, lighthouses that led enemy ships onto rocks, lasers that could burn through metal. Information, spies who stole secrets, codes that hid messages, propaganda that made people believe lies, the internet which could spread information or misinformation to the whole world in seconds." She paused. We even weaponized time. Time did not understand. Sieges explained. Surrounding an enemy city and waiting, not attacking, just waiting, letting them run out of food, letting them starve. Some sieges lasted years. The enemy was defeated not by weapons but by patience. Time was the weapon. Needed a break. He asked to stop for a moment. He drank some water. His hands were shaking like now. But there was more. Told him about nuclear weapons. Humans had learned to split atoms, the tiny pieces that made up everything. They had turned this knowledge into bombs that could destroy entire cities in one flash. 2 such bombs had ended a great war. Now, many countries had these bombs, enough bombs to destroy the whole planet many times over. You could end your own species, said. You built weapons that could kill everyone. Yes, said simply, and we built them anyway. She showed him one last thing. It was a story from an old war. Soldiers had run out of bullets. They had run out of grenades. They had no weapons left, so they had sharpened their eating spoons and fought with those. Spoons eating utensils. They had killed with spoons. We forget more weapons than most species ever invent, said. We have been fighting for 2 million years. We have tried everything, and we are still inventing new ways. Stood up, he needed to leave. He needed air. He needed to be away from the screens showing human history, the endless parade of weapons and wars and death. Where are you going? Asked. I need to think, said. He walked to the observation deck and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, his home planet floated peacefully. His people had fought wars too long ago, but nothing like this. Nothing so creative, nothing so endless. Humans had turned existence into a weapon. Every element, every concept, every moment of time. They had looked at the universe and asked one question: how can I use this to kill my enemies? And they had found answers, so many answers. Understood now why the council wanted a number. They wanted to feel safe. They wanted to know the threat and measure it. But you could not measure humans. They were beyond numbers. They were beyond categories. They were the most dangerous species in the galaxy. And they had not even left their own solar system yet. 3 months had passed since arrived at Station Unity. 3 months of demonstrations and lectures and nightmares. 3 months of filling tablets with notes that made no sense. 3 months of watching humans and learning to fear them. Now it was time to write his report. He sat alone in his quarters, had already gone home. The young assistant had requested a transfer after the history lesson. He now worked in agricultural surveys, counting crops on peaceful farming planets. He seemed much happier. Looked at his blank screen. The council wanted Form 7734 be completed. They wanted a number in the box that asked about weapons per individual. They wanted everything to fit their neat categories. He started typing. Inquiry, total weapon count for human species. He paused. What number could he write? 34 for the official, but that did not include improvised weapons. It did not include the human body itself. It did not include the psychological weapons, the lies and fears and manipulations. He typed again. Response undefined, potentially infinite. The council would not like this answer. They would say he had failed. They would say he needed to try harder, but did not care anymore. He had seen the truth, and the truth did not fit in a box. He wrote his explanation. He described everything he had learned. The hidden weapons in uniforms, the coffee cups that became knives, the bodies trained to kill with bare hands, the 2 million years of creative violence. He wrote about the categories Dr. Han had created: manufactured, adapted, improvised, biological, psychological. Each category was infinite. Each category kept growing as humans invented new things. He wrote about the history: fire and swords and guns and gas and nuclear bombs. Humans who fought with sharpened spoons when they had nothing else. Humans who turned time itself into a weapon through patience and siege. He wrote about the children. This was the part that haunted him most. During his last week on the station, he had visited something called a science fair. Young humans, some only 10 years old, presented projects they had created. Most were innocent things: growing plants, building small robots, studying animals. But 17 of those projects could be turned into weapons. The children did not know this. They were just curious. They were just exploring, but saw the potential in everything they made. A chemical reaction that could become an explosive, a robot that could become a drone, a study of bacteria that could become biological warfare. Human children created weapons without even trying. It was in their nature. They could not help it. He finished his explanation and wrote his recommendation. Do not engage human forces in direct combat, ever. He added more details. Humans should be treated as allies, never as enemies. Trade agreements should be favorable to them. Their requests should be granted whenever possible. Any species that fought humans would lose. Not immediately, perhaps, but eventually. Humans would find a way. They always found a way. He sent the report. Then he began packing his belongings. Captain came to say goodbye. The human looked tired but kind. He had been a good host, considering everything. I hope we did not frighten you too much, said. Made a sound that his translator rendered as a bitter laugh. You frightened me completely, but I understand now. I understand what humans are. And what are we? Thought carefully, he wanted to find the right words. You are survivors. Your planet tried to kill you with ice and fire and beasts and disease. You survived. Other species tried to kill you. You survived. You even tried to kill yourselves many times, and you survived that too. You have been fighting for so long that fighting became part of your souls. Nodded slowly. That is not unfair. I will tell the council that humans are dangerous, but I will also tell them that humans can be good friends. Your violence goes both ways. You fight hard against enemies, but you also fight hard for those you love. You protect as fiercely as you attack. This was true, had seen it during his stay. Humans who would kill for their families. Humans who would die for strangers. Humans who built weapons but also built hospitals, schools, art. They were complicated. They contained everything, the very best and the very worst. Thank you for understanding, said. He extended his hand. Looked at the hand. He knew now that it was a weapon. 5 fingers that could poke eyes, grab throats, form fists. A palm that could strike and a grip that could crush. But he also knew it was being offered in peace, in friendship. He shook the hand. It was warm and firm and did not kill him. Good luck, Ambassador, said. I hope we meet again. Boarded his ship and left Earth behind. As he flew away, he composed one final message, not for the council, for his own people, for his family and friends, for anyone who would listen. They asked me to count human weapons. I told them the truth. Start with 0, then count everything that exists. Every object, every idea, every moment of time. That is your baseline. Now add everything humans can imagine, every dream they have ever had, every nightmare that has ever woken them in the dark. Count all of that. We are still counting. We will always be counting. And I suspect, when we finally reach the end, the humans will have invented something new. That is who they are. That is what they are. Do not make them your enemy. Make them your friend. Give them food and trade and respect, and let them point their infinite weapons at someone else. This is my recommendation. This is my only hope. This is the truth about humanity. He sent the message and closed his eyes. Behind him, the blue planet grew smaller and smaller until it was just another dot of light among billions. Such a small planet, such a dangerous species, had been sent to count their weapons. He had failed. But in failing, he had learned something important. Some things cannot be counted. Some things cannot be measured. Some things can only be respected and feared, and if you are very lucky, befriended. Humans were one of those things. and the galaxy would never be the same.